Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel for a long-awaited Battlefront 2 video. A few months ago I posted a video going through every single hero in Battlefront 2 and letting you guys know what I found to be the best star card setup for each of them. The response to that video was pretty incredible, and by far the most repeated request on that video was for me to give the same treatment to the 4 infantry classes. Well, that's what we'll be doing today, going through all 4 and breaking down what their best setups are for each situation. And I'll not only be going over their best star cards, but also the blasters and attachments I find to be the most effective. I'm going to make sure to show every blaster and star card I'm talking about to avoid any confusion. I know there are likely some new players watching who won't just instantly know what I'm talking about when I name some random blaster. Keep in mind that with the infantry classes, there really aren't definitive best setups like most heroes. With the 4 classes, what cards you use mostly comes down to what you're trying to accomplish, so I'll just be sharing what has worked well for me. There will be timestamps down below to each of the 4 classes. I will leave separate timestamps for blasters and star card setups, so if you choose to revisit this video in the future, you can jump right to what you need. If you do enjoy this type of video and find them helpful, I would definitely appreciate it if you dropped a like, as these do take a long time to put together. Before we jump into the best loadouts for each class, I do want to take a quick moment to thank the sponsor for today's video, ExpressVPN. We live in a day and age where most of us rely on the web in some way, whether we use it for entertainment like streaming movies and gaming with friends, or for the less fun parts of life like submitting schoolwork and filing tax returns. Regardless of how you're using the internet, the unfortunate truth is that without protection, much of what you do online is completely exposed. Your unprotected information is vulnerable to threats like hackers, who with only a basic understanding of computers, can gain access to your financial information, passwords, or even your personal emails, and your internet service provider can easily track all of your internet browsing history and even sell that data to advertisers. ExpressVPN puts a stop to all of that and ensures your safety by encrypting your data and completely hiding your location. It's also super easy to use, just open the app, click connect, and you're protected. ExpressVPN is available on pretty much any platform you can think of, PC, Mac, iOS, Linux, even your router, so ExpressVPN keeps me protected no matter what I'm working on. I also love that ExpressVPN allows me to completely unblock services like Netflix, so I can watch movies and TV shows not available in my region, which makes a streaming library of just about every streaming service way bigger. ExpressVPN helps me in more ways than one by masking my IP from all kinds of risks, all while keeping my connection completely stable. Take back your internet privacy today and find out how you can get 3 months free by clicking the link below, expressvpn.com/bfnight. Alright, with that out of the way, let's jump into those loadouts, starting with the Assault class, which, for the past couple of months at least, has been my most played class. Keep in mind, I don't really play co-op all that often, so almost all of my trooper leveling is from Galactic Assault, Supremacy, and Blast. Anyway, the weapon situation with the Assault class is a unique one. Each of the Assault blasters serves a purpose and can situationally be the very best. However, the goal of this video is to let you guys know my most effective setup, and the blaster I find myself using 80% of the time with the Assault class is the A280. This blaster gets my vote for the most versatile weapon in the entire game. It can be competitive with any other blaster at just about every range. The only time it will struggle is at extreme long ranges, which you can easily avoid. Most maps don't even have lines of sight long enough where the A280 will no longer be effective. You're going to want to use this blaster with 2 attachments: improved cooling, which allows you to fire longer before overheating the weapon, and improved range, which makes the blaster far more effective at medium ranges and slightly better at long ranges. In Galactic Assault and Supremacy, this is the blaster I use pretty much all the time with a couple of exceptions I'll briefly mention in a bit. If you need a blaster you can rely on, there is no blaster better than the A280. For the Assault class, I am kind of forced to mention a couple of other blasters, as they are worth using in specific situations over the A280. The first is the CR2, which is the SMG type blaster for the Assault class. It has the fastest fire rate of any blaster in Battlefront 2 by a huge margin, and is incredible for close range engagements. However, it quickly drops off at any sort of range. In most situations, I'm going to take the A280 over the CR2 just because the A280 holds up way better in medium range engagements, while also being really strong up close. However, the CR2 does get used, at least by me, in situations where I know I'll mostly be dealing with very close range engagements. I like to use the CR2 in Blast, as most of the maps are very small and just play to the strengths of the CR2, and a few Galactic Assault maps like the second Death Star also give the CR2 a place to shine. Other than those situations though, I personally stick with the A280. If you decide to use the CR2, I'm going to recommend just 2 attachments. The first attachment you'll always want to run is Reduced Recoil, which kind of speaks for itself. itself, it reduces your recoil. The second attachment you'll want to equip, at least most of the time, is Ion Shot. This increases the CR2's damage against vehicles, turrets, and shields by a massive amount, but slightly, and I mean slightly, reduces your damage against troopers. I only rarely take the Ion Shot attachment off, even in Blast, and here's why. The reduction in damage against troopers is almost unnoticeable. It'll make no difference in shots to kill against the Assault Officer and Specialist class, and only increases the shots to kill against heavies by 1, which, with the fire rate of the CR2, is almost nothing. However, the Ion Shot attachment allows you to absolutely shred through not only vehicles, but the Specialist and heavy shields, which comes in handy in Blast all the time. If you're in a Blast lobby where no one is really using the heavy or Specialist shield, feel free to take the Ion attachment off, as I do at times. I'll usually remove it if I don't see a lot of shield use, as one shot can make a difference, but for the most part I just leave the Ion Shot attachment on. The EL-16 is another blaster I kind of have to mention, and this is the blaster that excels at long range. The EL-16, and this is something you have to know, is just not nearly as user-friendly as the other blasters in the Assault class. It has a slow rate of fire, has recoil that can be very difficult to get used to, and up close is very unforgiving if you miss a shot or two. However, it's pretty unbeatable at range and is very rewarding if you can land headshots. I love the EL-16 on maps where long-range engagements are common, like the first phase of Hoth or really any phase of Geonosis. The best attachments for the EL-16 are reduced recoil, which is extremely important for this blaster. I would honestly just recommend grinding out that attachment in co-op before trying to use the EL-16 against other players, as the recoil is pretty wild without this attachment. It's really not a fun gun to use until you get that reduced recoil attachment. You'll also want to run improved range, which makes a blaster that is already great at range just a bit better. I will also quickly mention another blaster, which is the newly added E11D, only because it's very easy to unlock if you're a brand new player. And while you're working on unlocking the other blasters, reduced recoil and improved range both help this blaster be much more competitive than it is without any attachments. With that said, the A280 with improved range and reduced recoil is by far my favorite blaster setup for Assault, and if you're new, it's also reasonably easy to get used to. Alright, with the blasters out of the way, let's move on to the star cards. For Galactic Assault and Supremacy, I have 2 star cards that I always run regardless of the map. The first is Toughen Up, and this star card allows you to instantly regenerate your health for 10 full seconds, meaning any health you lose will start regenerating instantaneously. This card replaces your Scan Dart ability and makes surviving so many situations you otherwise wouldn't have possible. I really never remove this card, it is just too helpful to even consider swapping out in any situation. The second Supremacy and Galactic Assault card I'm always running is Bounty Hunter, which increases your battle point gain by 20%, and if you're trying to earn a hero before the other players, this card is a no-brainer, as not running it puts you at a significant disadvantage. When I'm playing in modes with heroes available, I'm almost always going for a hero, as I usually need to capture background gameplay for other videos, so Bounty Hunter never leaves my setup in modes where hero play is possible. Now, my third card slot is where things change, and the third card slot is one I'm always swapping depending on the situation, so let me break that down for you. If I'm playing on a map where I know I'll be dealing with a lot of vehicles or working against a vehicle-based objective like the AT-AT on Hoth or the MTT on Naboo, I love to run the Smart Ion Grenade. This deals massive damage on impact to vehicles and will one-hit shields and turrets. It also deals pretty strong damage on impact to troopers, which makes the Smart Ion Grenade a decent option against infantry as well. However, if I'm not being forced to deal with vehicles or the type of objective the Ion Grenade will help me with, and I'm stuck in one of the mini choke points in Battlefront 2, I'm usually running Bodyguard, which reduces the amount of explosive damage you take by 40%, as well as making you take essentially no damage from toxins like the Acid Launcher. The filter time is just 1 second at epic level, meaning you will take damage for 1 second and then be completely immune. Battlefront 2 is perhaps the most grenade spammy game I have ever played, and one thing that really does get on my nerves sometimes is dying to random grenades constantly. Bodyguard makes that mostly a non-issue, as with this card you'll be able to tank a thermal detonator and most other explosives. In places like Phase 2 and 3 of Naboo or the capital ships in Supremacy, Bodyguard is a godsend. However, if you're not in a choke point heavy situation where you'll constantly be getting blown up, another card I tend to run is Assault Training, which grants you 40 health for every enemy defeated. This is far more useful than reduced explosive damage in situations like the ground phase of most prequel and sequel Supremacy maps, where you're not going to be dealing with grenade spam most of the time. Now, for game modes without heroes to chase, or just for those of you who don't care about getting a hero, you can of course remove Bounty Hunter completely, as getting those battle points as quick as possible doesn't really matter if you aren't going for a hero. In that case, you'll still of course want to run Toughen Up for that instant health regen, and you'll have 2 slots left over to choose from the 3 cards we've discussed. Smart Ion Grenade if you are dealing with vehicles, Bodyguard if you're dealing with grenade spam, which you most likely will be most of the time, and Assault Training in those situations where you won't need the explosive damage reduction, but could use the extra health on elimination. That's it for Assault. Again, those cards are just the ones I like to use, so if there's something you use I didn't mention, it doesn't mean you should stop using it, it just means that card doesn't have a place in my setups. The star card system is there so people can find out what they like, and everything in this video is just what I found to be personally effective for me and my playstyle. Moving on, let's talk about the heavy class, and the blaster situation with these guys is a lot easier for me to break down, as they have just two blasters that I use. The first is, of course, the TL50, which I use with two attachments, improved cooling for sustained fire, and reduced spread for better accuracy. Quite honestly, the TL50 at close range is diabolical. I almost feel bad sometimes, because the TL50 combined with the heavy's 200 HP and a shield is pretty hard for enemies to counter. There's not a lot they can do, as the TL50 will shred them before they have the chance. This blaster is excellent at close range, decent at medium range, and not really viable at long range, but up until recently was the heavy's uncontested best blaster, and it wasn't even close. With that said, there is a new heavy blaster in town that's also worth using, and that's the T21. This is the heavy's long range option. Slow fire rate, extremely high damage, but can be a bit unforgiving up close. That said, the T21 is still very strong at close range if you can land your shots, which isn't as easy as with the TL50, but really isn't that difficult. As far as attachments go, I prefer to run the blaster with no attachments. The scope, at least for how I use the weapon, is more of a detriment than anything. Improved handling makes the blaster a bit more user-friendly, but lowers your damage and increases your time to kill by a shot, and unlike the CR2, an entire extra shot to kill is a huge deal with the T21. Burst mode is good. It makes the blaster a bit better up close and a bit weaker at range, but also makes the blaster overheat much faster. The burst mode is something you can use if you personally like it. I just vastly prefer the gun without mods because it is so good. Moving on from the blasters, let's talk about the best heavy star cards. I'm going to avoid repeating myself for the star cards that do the same thing as the assault class version, as all of the classes have multiple cards that overlap. For Supremacy and Galactic Assault, again, if you are going for a hero, you'll want to run Bounty Hunter for the extra battle point gain. After that, well, especially with the heavy class, it all depends what you're trying to accomplish. If you're going all in on destroying the objective and or hunting vehicles, you'll want to run the Ion Turret, which will lock onto and damage vehicles, including objective-based vehicles like the MTT. You'll also want to run the Ion Torpedo, an ability that allows you to send 3 missiles that deal heavy damage to all vehicles. This is the setup you'll want to run if, and only if, your only goal is to take down the objective and earn a ton of battle points while doing so. This will leave you without a shield and without an explosive, so this doesn't exactly put you in the best position for kills. If you want to earn a bunch of battle points while also earning yourself a ton of infantry kills, use this setup. Bounty Hunter for the extra points, Detonite Charge to replace your impact grenade, and Bodyguard to reduce incoming explosive damage. This will leave you with a shield that will make most Assault Officer and Specialists easy kills, and will leave you with the Detonite Charge that will kill every trooper around you except for yourself, as even if you mess up a little and it lands right at your feet, you will still survive with some extra health thanks to Bodyguard. This is kind of my invincible build. It is pretty unlikely you'll ever die in a 1v1 against another infantry using this setup. The setup gets even better if you aren't going for a hero, as in Blast and other modes without heroes, I love to run the improved combat shield to make my shield even tankier, which makes it that much harder to do anything to me before I've killed the other person. With the improved shield, it gets pretty common to kill even reinforcements in a 1v1 without a problem. This setup is that good. If you are going for heroes and want to play the objective, Bounty Hunter, Ion Torpedo, and Ion Turret. If you think your sentry is enough firepower for the objective, which it honestly is most of the time, and you just want to rack up kills and battle points, run Bounty Hunter, Detonite Charge, and Bodyguard. If you just want the kills and don't need the extra battle points, swap out Bounty Hunter for improved combat shield, and you're basically a mini enforcer. The heavy becomes that strong when combined with either the TL50 or the T21. Things get even simpler in the blaster department when we get to the officer, as there's really only one weapon I ever use, and as I'm sure you guys are well aware, I am talking about the SC44C with 2 mods, improved cooling, and rapid fire. The SC44C completely outperforms the Blurg, the default blaster, and the DL18 in pretty much every way. Time to kill at both close and medium range is quicker with the SC44C against every one of those weapons, so unless you're just working towards the SC44C with those mods, there is no reason, at least as far as stats and time to kill goes to use any of those weapons over the SC-44C. It's just too strong in comparison. The only other officer weapon worth mentioning is the S5, which is great at long range and is really the officer's only long range option. I tend to rarely use this weapon if I'm being honest, as if I'm dealing with a map where I'm stuck with long range engagements, I would rather just use another class entirely. But hey, that's just me because the S5 with reduced recoil is no joke, and if you do like this weapon, it's certainly a decent option for long ranges. My star card setup for the officer is pretty simple. The officer is the class to use if your only concern is battle points. I'm not saying the officer is only good for racking up battle points, I'm saying if your only concern is getting battle points, the officer is your best option. If racking up battle points is indeed your goal, you will first want to run Bounty Hunter, of course, and also Officer's Presence, which reduces the delay of nearby allies' health regen and rewards the officer with battle points just for existing near teammates. You don't need to actively be doing anything, your presence will heal teammates, and you'll be rewarded with battle points for that. Your third card slot can go to either Recharge Command, which refreshes the cooldown of abilities for you and your teammates, or Improved Battle Command, which gives you and your teammates an additional 100 health. Either one of these is fine. I find that Recharge Command gets me more battle points as it can be used more often, but Improved Battle Command helps me to stay alive, which indirectly gets me battle points faster as I'm not wasting time trying to respawn. On the rare occasion I'm using the officer and not trying to get a hero, I tend to run either Recharge Command or Improved Battle Command depending on how competent the enemy team is, Improved Flash Grenade, which increases both the damage and blast radius of the flash grenade, and if I'm in a choke point and don't feel like constantly getting blown up, I again run Bodyguard for that reduced explosive damage, which again just alleviates so much frustration for me. This is my setup. There are a lot of valid options for the officer, but if I'm just going for kills and trying to stay alive in a game mode like Blast, this is a setup that really works well for me. I should mention a lot of people love the Disruption Star card, which overheats enemy weapons and can defuse explosives. This is a good card I'd at least recommend trying out in the small scale game modes to see if it's for you, but for me it's just never been worth sacrificing my turret and a star card slot for. Finally, we have the Specialist class, which has two very different weapons you should be paying attention to. If all you want to do is snipe, the NT242 with dual zoom and improved cooling is by far the best option. One-shot headshots regardless of class, which is something only the NT242 can offer. If you're just wanting to use a specialist to play the objective, you can always remove dual zoom and equip the disruptor shot, which dramatically increases the NT's damage against vehicles, but reduces your damage against infantry, making the NT a two-shot headshot, which is still decent. However, if you're wanting to use the specialist in an aggressive way while also having the option to snipe, the A280 CFE with burst mode and dual zoom is a gift to mankind. This is the way I use a specialist class most of the time, as it turns the class into a specialist assault hybrid that can rush the enemy while also picking them off from reasonably long ranges. Be warned, if you are a new player, the A280 CFE is really not great until you unlock burst mode, so again, I would recommend grinding out that attachment in co-op before trying out the weapon in other online game modes. I have a couple of favorite star card setups for the specialist, and they depend almost entirely on which sniper I'm using. First off, while you can use Bounty Hunter and go for a hero using the Specialist class, I wouldn't particularly recommend it. I mean, you can if you want to, but the Specialist just has a lot of really fun setups you need all three card slots for. The first setup I love to run when I'm strictly sniping with the NT242 starts with the Marksman Star card. This star card resets your blaster's heat buildup and also reduces your future heat buildup every time you get a headshot kill. The NT242, as mentioned, is a one-shot headshot, but even with the improved cooling attachment, it overheats in just 4 shots. This card allows you to keep firing without constantly having to step back and cool your weapon down. The second card I run with the NT is the Personal Shield, which grants you a bubble shield with 240 health. This just gives you the option for cover whenever you need it, and will save your life so often it's become a necessary part of every specialist setup of mine. Finally, if I'm strictly sniping with the NT, the third card I run is Survivalist, which reduces your health regen delay by 40%, so every time you take any damage, you will start regenerating your health back much quicker. This is going to allow you to pop back out from cover after being shot a lot faster than anyone will expect, allowing you to get the jump on other snipers. This setup of Personal Shield, Marksman, and Survivalist is only for when you're planning on sitting back and picking people off and have no intentions of trying to rush your enemy or to play the objective. If you're trying to play the objective as a specialist class and choose to run the NT-242 with Disruptor Shot, you're going to want to keep the personal shield, but replace the 2 other card slots with Expert Weapons Handling, which increases your unlimited firing time after a perfect cooldown, and Hardened Infiltration, which improves your infiltration ability by giving it a quicker recharge time and granting you damage reduction while using it. Expert Weapons Handling is excellent for playing the objective, as it will allow you to continuously fire your NT the entire time the objective is exposed, which will grant you so many more battle points. The NT overheats in just 2 to 3 shots with the disruptor attachment, just depending on whether or not you're using improved cooling, so Expert Weapons Handling allows you to quickly flush your weapon and fire your weapon an unlimited amount of time for the entire duration of an exposed objective. It also helps against other vehicles and blocking heroes, as the Disruptor Shot gives the weapon a fair amount of splash damage. Hardened Infiltration just gives you an option for close quarters combat while you're waiting for the ion disruptors to respawn for the objective, and you'll need it as enemies rush you. The NT just isn't going to cut it up close most of the time, the fire rate is slow, and with Disruptor Shot it'll take 2 headshots to kill, which is easier said than done with a sniper rifle like the NT at close range. With that said, there is a sniper that excels at close range, and that is the A280 CFE with Burst Mode. If you are just looking to rush with a specialist and rack up a ton of kills, there is a setup that is really just the best if that's your main goal. You'll first want to run Stealth, which will keep you off the enemy radar while firing your weapon, meaning players will not see you coming until you have the jump on them. Stealth also increases your melee damage to 125, which allows you to 2-tap anyone who gets too close. You'll also want to run the personal shield again, which not only protects you if you're trying to make an escape, but if you're trying to get in someone's face to punch them to death, the personal shield makes that about 10 times easier. Finally, you'll want to run Brawler, which takes your abilities out of cooldown and restores 100 health every time you score a melee kill. This pairs perfectly with Stealth, and there really isn't a more perfect setup in Battlefront 2. If you are just not interested in sniping with a specialist, this Brawler, personal shield, and stealth setup is the way to go. Well guys, that is all 4 classes covered. If there is a card or weapon you like to use and I didn't mention it, it doesn't mean it's bad or you shouldn't be using it, all it means is I don't use it and it doesn't have a place in any of my setups. The star card system is there for customization after all, and with more casual game modes like co-op, you are free to mess around with whatever you like, but these are the ones that work for me, and I think they'll also really help you guys out. Anyway, if this video did help you guys out and you'd like to see more videos similar to this, I would definitely appreciate it if you guys could leave a thumbs up, and if you are new around here, feel free to subscribe so you never miss a future video. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.